Hi. I'm gonna talk about like my favorite show, Seinfeld. So, yeah. So Seinfeld, it's like a sitcom. That's like the genre of television that it's about, and I think it was made in the 1990s, I'd say, around there, and it was created by Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, who are both comedians. Jerry Seinfeld is known to be like he's a very very famous comedian, but this was one of his first television series, and big kind of it's a very big opportunity for him, and it's his first big break, I guess. And this is where people started to recognize him from that show because it was so popular. So basically, it's a sitcom where nothing really ever gets done, and the main driving force behind the plot are the four main characters who are Jerry Seinfeld, who plays himself, and yeah, he's based off of himself. So Jerry Seinfeld's a comedian, and he does stand up in between the segments of the scene, and it talks about him like going to NBC, him doing stand up on the Tonight Show, and all that. And then his friend George Costanza, who is kind of his main characteristic is like trying to be cheap with his money, and yes, and yeah, and then there's Elaine, who was Jerry's ex girlfriend, but is now like part of the friend group, I guess. So, and her characteristics, you know, she's kind of a bit of a pessimist. She's very pessimistic towards people. Like she doesn't trust people as much as Jerry and as much as the others, I guess. And then the last character is Kramer, who lives across the hall from Jerry, and he's like the wild card of the group. So he acts like kind of crazy, and he usually is like the punchline of most of the jokes. And yeah, he's probably my favorite character. Um, yeah, and then so it takes place in New York in the 90s, I guess, and it's pretty cool watching it because it's like you know, you see what was going on at the time, I guess. It's a nice like time capsule, I guess, for someone who wasn't really like alive back then. I guess it's kind of cool seeing what like New York looked like and stuff, and like so there's that. And then also yeah, no, seeing like the fact that like they used pagers and stuff, and then like the car phones, which didn't really exist when I was like growing up even. So that's kind of cool. And the whole idea of like no internet is interesting, I guess, to like watch that. I don't know why, but that definitely makes the show like interesting for me. One of the aspects. The other aspect is that the writing's really really good, because there has to be good writing if it's just going to be about nothing. Like if there's no exciting events which kind of drive the plot forward, they have to have really good dialogue to make it interesting. And one of my favorite episodes from the show, I think it's called The Parking Lot, and it's basically like a Bottles episode where the characters are stuck in one place for the whole episode. So basically, it's like Jerry and Elaine, George and Kramer all go to the mall, and then when they're leaving in the parking lot, they realize they forgot where they parked the car. And the whole episode is them spending time looking for the car and trying to come up with different strategies to find the car. And it ends up they do find the car, but Kramer left the group and he had the keys to the car, so they weren't able to get in until hours later. So yeah, I mean like the episode, like what really makes the episodes interesting is like it's an event like that where it's like they're stuck in a parking lot. It's not very interesting, but it's the writing and the dialogue which really make it interesting and like funny. The whole episode, and I think that's one of their better episodes for sure. What else? Yeah, in the show, another thing I found quite interesting is Jerry Seinfeld. like I said, he's like a comedian, so he'll go in between the scenes of the show and do stand-up comedy, like referencing what was happening in the show. Um, yeah, so it'll be like they're on a plane or whatever, and then they do the plane segment, and then after the plane segment, he has a little stand-up show, which is his character doing stand-up, because his character is based off of him, who's a stand-up comedian. So then his character will be doing stand-up about what he experienced on the plane, and I think that's pretty cool. It kind of shows like the the workings of comedy, I guess, and like how he finds his material. It really it's it's a sitcom, but it's kind of showing how Jerry like thinks and how he comes up with his jokes a lot of the time, because they do put a lot of effort into trying to show Jerry and show how he gets around with his work and all that, and how he's how he's progressing in his career. So yeah, I find it quite interesting.